Heya, welcome to the last part of my, let's say, trilogy on operating systems and their talks. And today we'll take a look at Windows and how to do a debloat of the system, where to get programs more easily, and so on. Because as you know, Microsoft is a data machine, plugging us with more and more idiotic options, programs, AI. If someone likes such a thing, then it's cool, no problem. I, for one, am not so fond of it. I know that these types of videos, like, let's say, debloat your system, improve your system, fasten your computer, etc. These videos are quite plenty on YouTube, and I'm doing another one to the algorithm, but to be honest, I still wanted to do it because it's like part of what I wanted to do. Let's say if after my two first videos about Linux you didn't like it much, then if you have to return to Windows, then this is, in my opinion, quite a good way to try it. Let's say like this. And this is also kinda interesting because recently we got the 24H2 update, and while they added a few things that are rather positive, for me there are a few little things that annoy me mostly. Before we get started, I would rather answer a few questions about what we gain by such a debloat, and also correct a few statements that are often made. Correct isn't a right word here, maybe. I mean, it's kinda right, but not that I'm correcting anything, but rather saying that adding a small touch-up or something like this. So what we do with this debloat? We do things like disable or remove Microsoft programs or services, telemetry, tweak settings in the registry editor, set our own preferences, among other things. Is it safe to do this? Yes, provided you know what you are doing, and if a function, for example, you need and I don't, is there present in the video, you can also tick that option off, and when you're doing tweaks, this one won't be affected. The programs, for example, shown in this video perfectly described each option, so you can look up for yourself what you want and don't want to check on your list. Will it speed up your computer? Yes and no. It is true that doing a debloat removes many processes or unnecessary programs, including disabling or removing the programs from the auto start. But as quickly as we gained efficiency by getting rid of those unnecessary things, we quickly add more programs to it, and this time our own, and probably a lot of other processes with their installs. The most sensible step is, of course, to install everything at the beginning and then debloat. However, let's agree that even if we install what we want, later we will still remember about this one program and have to install it as well, and the whole plan goes to shit. Not to mention the programs that must run in the background for any game or program only to work properly. So let's move on to install Windows. We can use two methods. The first one is to download the .iso file and prepare a USB flash drive with Rufus, for example, like I showed in the Linux install programs video. And the second is, of course, Windows Media Creation Tool, which will create such a drive for us really easily. The installation process and out-of-box experience will be done in a virtual machine because live USB environment does not exist on Windows, and we go straight to the system install. To install the system, we do the same thing as in the case of installing Linux. We enter the BIOS and select the boot device, which is our flash drive in this case, and the installation will begin immediately. We will be greeted by a new, in quotation, installer, where we select the language, keyboard, and immediately whether we want to install the system. In my case, when I was installing on a physical disk, I reverted to the old version of the installer. I didn't like the moment that says delete all the things. You know, a warning is a warning, but I wanted to be 100% sure that I didn't erase anything important. And I wanted to check also the changes between the old and this new installer. They differ quite slightly, only in maybe order and small changes to the graphical UI, and that's about it. We can allocate disk space. In my case, I selected whole 100 gigs and clicked on next. In your case, you will probably want to either format one selected drive with Windows in case of just reinstalling the system, or possibly everything as it goes if you want to do a whole reinstall. After checking the final settings, we click install, and here the actual installation begins. Pretty anticlimactic compared to Linux or even the old installer, but hey, at least it works and it didn't break. The installation may take a while and a few reboots, but eventually once it's finished, the computer will reboot and throw you into out-of-box experience. At this stage, I recommend unplugging the cable from your computer, the internet cable to be specific. Although if you're installing on a desktop computer, there might be a chance that by the time you finish OOBE, the network drivers might still not be installed, like in my case. So we choose the language, keyboard layout, we can name the device. If the computer is connected to the internet, it will start downloading updates for us here. But it's worth doing that after we have gone through the whole process of setting up the device. Well, and finally we come to the most important point. Logging into Microsoft account, because some idiot said it's an awesome idea to use a Microsoft account instead. Just Microsoft account. Instead of local one. Don't have internet? Tough luck, you won't log in? Fortunately, there is one command that allows us to set up a local account, and you have probably heard of it many times. Using a combination of Shift and F10, we enter the command line and type OOBE, bypass an arrow, and this should be done without access to the internet, otherwise it will drop you into the same point like here. After the reboot, we go through the setup of the device once again, and suddenly our eyes will see that the system does not see an internet connection, and it is sad from this reason. But also the option I have no internet appears. Using this option we configure our local account, set the password, security, and click through the allowing permissions. Locations? No. Finding the device? No. Diagnostic data? Well, we have to agree to the required ones, but I will show you how to do so that no data is sent later. And writing? No. Tips and recommendations? No, and again no. Area, there were still putting a Game Pass for $1, but they withdrew both the offer and the pop-up. I think also there was Microsoft Office package. I'm not sure. But like you see right now all we have to do is wait a few minutes for the magical dwarves behind the curtain to set everything up and get into the system. Well, here we are at last. Now I will move on to the physical machine, where we will start the second stage of this video. Being already on physical machine, I installed OBS only, and that's about it from whatever tweaks I did on this machine before recording. I was a bit positively surprised because last time I installed the system, the start menu was overloaded with apps. We could, for example, come across Netflix, Messenger, or probably a few other apps still recommended by Redmond Company. I will probably put up a few screens if I find them with whatever the hell I could find from additional apps. Fortunately, it looks like they have toned down a bit in this regard, and the only things we will see from now on are the programs Microsoft owns, probably, and advertises. Although, well, I still see two problems: the search engine and its terrible performance, and the hints that no one asked for. The same goes for the widget tab on the taskbar, which performs a similar function to the search bar in some situations. We also have built-in unwanted programs like OneDrive, Copilot, and so on. But as I mentioned, these are Microsoft apps and they want to push them towards the user. So we will use two programs to debloat. They mostly perform the same function, but also one could fill the gap after the other, as we will see, especially if you miss something or accidentally turn something off. Normally the way I did it was to manually disable certain options at first, but later I'll show you that these programs will disable those options for us, freeing us from clicking through the dozen or so options we have to choose from. So we'll use both ChrisTitus CTT Debloat tool and Ledrago X's Win-Debloat tools. We'll start with the former because I had trouble with it myself at first, mainly installing programs, and I wanted to see if it would do the job like it should. You have to copy the command given on the page that I will link in the description and paste it into the terminal in administrator mode. Once launched, it throws us into a simple GUI in which we can install applications, perform tweaks, configure certain Windows tools, or edit how we want to receive updates. Programs, as I said, we will leave for later, although if someone wants to, they can install them right away and use tweaks to, for example, exclude some from the auto start. We are more interested in the tweaks tab, where we have a choice of recommended tweaks under the standard, minimal, or custom tweaks, provided we know what each option means, which is not difficult since we have the explanation of what each option disables and means. For the purpose of this video, I have chosen the standard selection, which ticks on most of the standard tweaks, including restart point, removing temporary folders, disabling or blocking the installation of third-party applications via Microsoft Store, unless you install them yourself. We can also disable activity history, telemetry, hibernation, groups, clean disk, and much more. But that's not all. Under the standard tweaks, we can also use advanced tweaks. Normally I don't recommend them because, well, they are advanced and are rather for people who are at a certain extreme when it comes to disabling features. We have, for example, Adobe Network Block, background applications, disabling Copilot. This is probably the only useful thing we can disable. We can also set the time to UTC. This is useful for dual boot, namely if we are using both Windows and Linux. The following situation occur. Let's say it is, in my case, 1822 on Windows. Switching to Linux will also have 1822, but after returning to Windows, the time will be shifted 2 hours back. Using this tweak, we can make the time always show the correct time even after switching from Linux to Windows. Other options I would remove are, of course, OneDrive and blocking Razer software from installing. I personally have Razer mouse, but I haven't used the software ever since I got it. These are probably the most necessary things I would tick here. We can also run ONO Setup 10, this even bigger rabbit hole of settings from where we can disable or enable features for the user of the machine. There are probably 100 of these settings and probably some overlap with what we previously checked. These are disabling tracking features, disabling features in Microsoft Edge, disabling synchronization, and many more things. For those who want to personalize their own settings, everything is described here. For the purpose of this video, I will again use only the recommended ones. It is the best to restart the computer after it, but I will do it later after I finish the tweaks in the main program. And coming back to it, there are still preferences we can set for ourselves. For example, setting a dark theme, only Bing search, showing file extensions, or disabling the widget button on the bar. I didn't select it, but I will remove it later anyway. And we also can activate a performance profile, and we can run tweaks. It can take up a few minutes, so you can do something productive in the meanwhile. After the tweaks are done, we can go to the config tab where we can find the functions we can run and install from this level, such as, for example, virtualization. In case of problems with particular system function, we can also solve it here, such as Windows Update, Winget, or even reset our network. The Updates tab allows us to manage updates. We can leave them as they are, set a recommended update plan, or disable them altogether. I did leave it as it is with our normal plan, and that's basically it. After tweaks or retweaks in Setup 10, because as you could see I didn't disable or re-enable a couple of options, we can move to installing programs. In my case I chose Firefox browser, Discord, Python, VLC, or a couple of other programs I need, as you can see here. Give them a couple of minutes and then restart the computer. Before I get to the moment after the reboot, I would also like to answer why we didn't use the Microsoft Store to install apps. The Microsoft Store, as the Microsoft Store, was made to maximize profits. The first 10 results may be what you are looking for, and then it's on to the recommended ones and, well, basically recommended crap. I didn't know after searching for GIMP that Game Pass was similar, or I don't know, Avast is similar to VLC. After the reboot, as you can see, we got rid of most of the annoyances, such as bloat in the search bar. To get rid of the rest of the bloat and whatever there's left of things to do, and to show how the other program works, we'll use the second Debloat program, that is Win-Debloat tools. We download the zip file with one button from the GitHub site and extract the entire archive following the instructions. That is, run the file as administrator and then in the terminal paste the command to run it with a graphical interface. We'll be again met with very simple interface from which we can also tweak and install programs. In this case, all I will do is enable the clipboard history, and the rest I will leave as it is, because we have already rummaged through the guts of Windows before. From here we can also make similar changes to our system as in CDT, like do a cleanup, remove or install Xbox or OneDrive, enable optional features, everything we need. And as I said, just enable the clipboard history and click apply tweaks. Again, you have to wait a few minutes, and after that unwanted applications are removed from our start menu. Although you have to uninstall some manually yourself. Once the process is complete, we can manually uninstall the remaining apps and restart the computer. After the second reboot, as you can see from the taskbar of the desktop, we got rid of elements that were not useful to us, or me in this case. If we now go to the privacy settings or even deeper into such, for example, a GP edit, then most of the things will be disabled. But to enter GP edit, we need to copy a script to make it appear for us. We copy the script given in the description into the notepad and save it as an executable .bat file. Also, we have to change the format from txt to any file when saving, by the way. Later we will run it as an administrator and wait for a while, then search for gpedit.msc, go to administrative templates, Windows components, and look for Customer Experience Improvement Program. Both options, as you can see, are not configured, but should be disabled. Just to be sure, I disabled them myself from this level, but as you saw during the debloat, we disabled all those functions ourselves, and the program did it basically everything for us. Still, just to be sure, we can go into the settings under the privacy and security tab, and going through the settings we uncheck the last settings in diagnostics and telemetry, and that's how we finished debloating the system. It took some time, but the result is a system with local account without plugging news, such as the programs, games, or many more things that shouldn't be here, without collecting telemetry and user data. And with that, we come to the end of this trilogy. As I thought about these videos, I showed how it is to use Linux up to a certain level, install apps and whatnot. I also showed how to improve the quality of using Windows. These videos took quite some time to prepare, to make, to do the scripts, to voice them, and put it together nicely and to be enjoyable for you to watch. Materials in this style is really hard to put it together. If I were to make again a video on Linux or Windows, the topic about operating systems is quite, let's say, long, because if I, for example, let's say I did the video 1 week about Linux, the other week if I were to do a video about Linux, nothing major would probably appear, unless it's that period where the distros would appear to have their next major release. The only thing I would think of if I were to continue with these videos would be to do it as weekly technology news, but such topics are quite common on YouTube, so it seems that it's better to just, make these videos once every few months, especially only if something major happens. For example, some anti-cheat will finally start working, or on the contrary, it won't run on Linux anymore. Then it wouldn't be as fun as I would have hoped so, but at least there would be a video with me talking about this certain thing. Unless you have also other idea in the comments. For example, do a video about something on Linux that I actually could make a 10, 15, 20 minutes video about, and that would be enjoyable rather than writing a simple response in the comment to answer this question. But yeah, that will be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya!